Good afternoon, sixth grade scholars. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to your sixth grade Vista Virtual Lit class. Let's take a look at our turn-in numbers from yesterday. 6% bump. Actually, this was just updated. We're actually 62%. So a 7% bump up from yesterday. That is awesome. Way to step up to the challenge and way to show responsibility on getting your work done. That's going to make sure that you're ready for 7th grade. Let's check our work. So take a second to minimize this screen, pull up your graded assignment that was sent back to you so that we can compare our answers side by side. Number one, Stevenson challenged us to really pay attention to suffering and lots of other difficult negative things like exclusion, poverty, and injustice in order to be fully human, right? Because life is the good and the bad, and we can't ignore the bad. Why did Rosa Parks tell Brian he's going to be tired? Brian named off, when she asked, what do you do? He named off like 20 different big problems that he and his organization are trying to tackle. Those included ending the death penalty, reducing mass incarceration, eliminating people's bias in the criminal justice system, ending life without parole. There were even others that you might have listed, but there were so many things that he named. She's like, that's a lot. And then our reflection prompt, you were asked, we were provided this quote that I believe each of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done. You gave examples of liars aren't just liars, people who steal things aren't just thieves, and even people who kill someone aren't just killers. And you were asked to what extent you agreed with that quote. To what extent? Let's take a look at two different samples that we can compare to their response to this prompt. So if we just look at these side by side, which writing is stronger and what makes it stronger? Again, the prompt was, to what extent do you agree with this quote? Which one is stronger? What makes it stronger? All right, so if you said the writing on the right is stronger, I agree. But let's break down why. And it's not just because it's longer. More doesn't always mean better. If the prompt was, to what extent do you agree with this quote? Let's just look at the assertions from each example. The one on the left says, I agree with Stevenson because a person who does those things can change the way they are seen by other people. Did that say to what extent or how much this writer agreed? No, it just said, I agree. The prompt didn't ask agree or disagree. It said, to what extent do you agree? And I went into that in depth in my video yesterday. So either the scholar on the left really expresses themselves well. They do a good job explaining that, how somebody can turn things around. But that's not what the prompt said. The scholar on the right, let's just look at the assertion, because again, the length isn't necessarily what makes this better. It's how they're clearly addressing the prompt. I agree with this quote, 97 point, I don't even know what to call this figure, 0.09675%, because yes, some people are capable of doing the right things and are able to do great things in life, even when they do something bad. But some people desire to do bad things, even if they are capable of doing good. I'm going to stop there. This assertion gets rambly and long, but does it address to what extent that the prompt asked them to? Yes, right? The scholar on the right did two things differently. Number one, this scholar addressed the prompt. So they took the time to really look at it and think, what is this asking and what's my answer? And then two, this scholar took the time to actually really think about their answer and to write this big long paragraph that tries to fully explain what they're thinking. No shortcuts in the right. There's some serious shortcuts in the left. Even if left is clear, there's shortcuts. The scholar on the right took the time. The scholar on the left took a shortcut. Okay, and that's my feedback for the day. So you can go ahead and pull up today's worksheet. It's called April 22nd, Act 1 Refresher Quiz. And let's take a second to write in, and I gotta update this, sorry guys, feedback. This will be correct on yours. Feedback of the day. My feedback of the day, get ready to write it in this box, is take your time and not shortcuts. Take your time, not shortcuts. Okay? This advice is going to be important because today we are pushing pause and we're not jumping into Act 2. A lot of you got a late start to the class. Maybe you got a Chromebook late, or maybe your internet was messed up and you joined us late and we were already, 10, 20 pages into the book and you haven't had that chance to really catch up and see what's going on. Maybe you've been with us the whole time, but it would help if you could just slow down and catch up on everything that's going on in Act 1 so we're fully prepared for Act 2. Here's how we're going to do this, okay? Yesterday, in office hours, Miss Jenny, you guys had a hard time watching the video. We've got it fixed, okay? In office hours today, Mr. Calabrese and Miss Pegram will be playing. There's a couple different versions, different movies of this. They're going to play the good one, all right? They're going to be in office hours. They're going to be playing the good version of this play, and you are going to fill this kind of Act 1 refresher quiz out as you watch the movie. Take your time on this, okay? This is important to note. You should not just go do number 1, then do number 2, then do number 3, because you may be able to do part of number 2 and part of number 3, but then watching the video will help you finish it. So here's what you should do before you go to office hours. Do as much of these as you can, okay? On number 1, what do we know about the boy on trial? This is a 3-point prompt, so make sure you include as many important details as you can think of. What do we know about the boy on trial? Number 2, on the left side, you're listing arguments or testimonies that were used to convince the jury that the boy was guilty. That's why they're called the prosecution argument and testimony. The prosecutor job is to prove that the defendant is guilty. So that's why it's called the prosecution argument and testimony. These were the facts or statements that were used to try to prove the boy was guilty. All right. Let's give an example. What was one of the main facts that was used to prove that the boy did it? I'll give you a second to write in your own. What was one of the main facts that was used to prove that the boy killed his father? All right, if you don't have it typed out yet, pause me, finish typing yours out. I'm going to provide my own. If mine's different than yours, go ahead and include it in the second box, okay? If it's the same, twinsies, keep it. All right, one of the main facts that I remember that was used to prove the boy was guilty is the old man said he heard the boy yell, "I'll kill you." Right before heard. All right. Now let's get to the right column. This is the reasonable doubt column, right? Remember, on a jury, if you're not completely positive that the person is guilty of whatever crime it is, if you have any reasonable doubt, then you got to vote not guilty, right? So a reasonable doubt is like a chance the boy may not be guilty. In terms of this particular fact, what doubt do some people have? So the prosecution says the old man heard the boy yell, "I'll kill you," and then he heard the body drop. What would somebody who has a doubt say to this fact? This is really similar to an activity we did a few lessons ago. But what would someone with reasonable doubt say to this fact? I'll give you a second to fill that out. What would someone with a doubt say about this fact that the old man said he heard the boy yell? Right, if you don't have it typed out yet, pause me, finish typing it out. Yeah, they talked a lot about the fact that these apartments are right next to the L train. If you guys like, why is it called an L train? It's not like the letter L is elevated. It's an elevated train, okay? So the tracks aren't street level, they're elevated. That's why it's called an L train, right? The boy, an old man's apartment is right next to the L tracks. The train was passing at the moment of the stabbing. The old man couldn't have heard that statement of noise of the train. So that's how this works. Before you watch the video or join office hours, do as much of this on your own as you can. A lot of you might be able to fill this whole thing out. Then you can just watch the movie for fun, your work's done. But fill out every fact you can think of, right? That were argued that the boy did it. For each fact that listed, there is a doubt that people have about that fact. So on the left goes the fact used in court to argue against the boy being guilty, and then on the left is how did someone kind of doubt that fact as they discuss. Your last one is a matching activity where you match each description of a character to the juror that it's describing. Okay. If this was on a worksheet, you'd be drawing lines, but we can't do that on a Google Doc. So here's how it's going to work. Here's your example. Here's the description. An elderly, good-natured man. Elderly meaning old, right? Which character would that describe? If you know it, click your mouse in between these empty parentheses and write the number of which juror it is. Which juror would be described as an elderly and good-natured old man? 5 seconds. All right. If you said juror 9, you are correct. Okay. So that's how it's going to work. Go match these with as many as you can before you watch the video, and then during the video, you'll know which ones you're missing, and you need to be paying attention for. And you'll also, while watching the video, if there were some key facts or evidence that they bring up that you forgot to put on your tracker, you'll be able to add that too. All right. That is today's assignment. If you are not able to make office hours, I have included a link to another version of the play, the original version. Remember, this first aired on TV. It was a play, but it was first aired on CBS in 1955. In your assignment, I have linked that version that you can watch on YouTube, as also saying when to stop it for Act 1. This version is not as good as the version they're watching in office hours. I can't provide a link to the one they're watching in office hours because I haven't. We all don't have the same licenses and purchases. So if you want to watch the good version, go to office hours. The version I'm going to link is still it's decent. It's still going to be entertaining. It's still going to have all the same lines, and you're going to get to actually see the characters talking and their reactions. So you're going to get more out of it, like you're actually watching the play. All right. Hope to see a lot of you in office hours, and have a great rest of your day. Take your time on this assignment and do it right.